One more time. Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is Inspirational Eby, where you get easy piano lessons that will help make your Christian music more interesting and more edifying. Today we will be looking at the augmented seventh chord. The augmented seventh chord, right? Now the augmented chord is one that produces an alien sound, right? It has an alien sound, and for this reason beginners and intermediates tend to shy away from the chord. So you get to hear the chord majorly among advanced players, right? But in this lesson we are going to see how a simple augmented seventh chord can make your music sound more interesting, right? You don't have to be an advanced player to be able to use the augmented chord, right? So we're going to learn how we can simply, apply the augmented seventh chord in our songs, right? So in this lesson, we're going to be learning how to, first of all, build the chord, and then we will apply the chord. Now there are a couple of ways the augmented chord can be applied in music, right? But in this lesson we're going to be seeing how we use the augmented seventh as a substitute for the dominant chord in a secondary dominant passing to the minor chord. So in a secondary dominant passing we use a dominant chord, but in this lesson we're going to substitute that dominant chord with an augmented chord, right? So the augmented chord will be used as the secondary dominant to the minor chords. So when we see that, then we will apply this to a song, and the song we'll be looking at today is the hymn Holy, Holy, Holy. Right? So Holy, Holy, Holy is, in some hymnals is written in the key of E flat. Some other hymnals is written in the key of E, right? But it's popularly done in the key of E flat major. So in this lesson we would focus on the key of E flat major, right? So E flat. Now, we will start with building the chord, right? Building the chord. So before we talk about the augmented seventh, we have to first of all talk about the augmented triad, right? So the augmented triad. So the augmented triad is simply made up of two sets of 4 half steps. Two sets of 4 half steps, right? So when you stack a 4 half step, a set of 4 half step on top another 4 half step, you get the augmented triad. So I'll explain what that means. Now let's say I pick C, so just count 4 half steps, 1 2 3 4, and that gives us E, and another 4 half steps, 1 2 3 4, and that is giving us G sharp or A flat, as the case may be, right? So this is the augmented triad. 4 half steps, 4 half steps. So the augmented triad is made up of the roots, the major third, and the augmented fifth. So the word augmented is an English word which simply means to increase. When they say augment, means to increase, right? Or to add to. So it's just like the perfect fifth. Remember, the G is the perfect fifth. So we added a half step to that perfect fifth to give the augmented fifth. Are you seeing it? So this is the augmented triad, made up of what? Root, major third, and the augmented fifth. Now next up is the augmented seventh. So what seventh are we adding to give us the augmented seventh? We are adding the minor seventh, right? So this is the octave, the C octave, this is the major 7, and this is the minor 7. So we are adding the minor 7th to give us the augmented 7th chord. The minor 7th chord give us the augmented 7th chord. So this is the augmented 7th, made up of the roots, the major 3rd, the augmented 5th, and the minor 7th. So that's basically the augmented 7th chord. Now next up is how I play the chord, right? So how do I play this chord? So on my left hand, I'll play the roots. Now play that augmented 5th. And I'll play the minor 7th. So this is what I will play on my left hand. Then on my right hand, I'll play the roots, the major 3rd, the augmented 5th, and the octave of the root. Listen it. That's it. This is how I play the augmented 7th. Now, playing it this way gives me two options, right? I can either play that that octave, or I can omit it and let that augmented 5th be at the top, depending on what note I want at the top, right? So it's either this at the top or this at the top. Isn't it? So that is, or this is the augmented 7th chord. Next up is application. So when do we use these chords? As I said earlier, a couple of applications, but in this lesson we'll be using it as a secondary dominant to the minor chord. So in a key, remember we're in the key of E flat, the 2, the 3, and the 6 of any key are minor chords, right? The 2, the 3, the 6. And so when going to any of those minor chords, we can use the secondary dominant as a person to those minor chords. So for instance, the 2, in using the secondary dominant going to the 2, we will apply we will play the dominant chord on the 6 that takes us to the 2. That's a secondary dominant pattern, right? Are you seeing it? That's a dominant chord to the 2. In going to the 3, we would apply the dominant chord where? On the 7. Right? Remember the key of E flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back to 1. So this is our 7, this is 6. So we're playing a dominant chord on that 7 that takes us to the 3. Are you seeing it? You seeing it? So they're playing the dominant 7 on that 7th chord. And finally, the 6. So where do we play the dominant chord? We play it on the 3 that takes us to the 6. That's a secondary dominant pattern. Are you seeing it? So these are dominant chords. So now what we will do is we will substitute that dominant chord with the augmented chord. That's simply what we're doing. So going to the 2, remember where we are applying the dominant chord on the 6, but we will no more play the dominant chord. What we will play? The augmented chord, the augmented 7th chord. Are you seeing it? right? Then going to the 3, we'll apply the augmented 7th chord where, remember, on the 7, right? So we'll no more play that dominant chord. What we will play? The augmented chord. You see it? That's the augmented 7th chord. And finally going to the 6, right? Where are we going to play that augmented chord? We're playing it on the 3, right? So it's no more going to be dominant. It's now going to be that augmented 7th chord. Are you seeing it? That's it. So substituting the dominant chords with the augmented chord in that secondary dominant passing to the minor chords, right? So that is it. So next up is that we're going to be applying what we have learned in the song Holy, 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 right? So what I'll do first of all is I'll play the song using the augmented 7th chords in going to these minor chords. So you listen and then I would explain everything that I did in the song. But note that I'm reharmonizing the song using just that augmented 7th chord, right? So be edified. So I believe that you can agree with me that even though the augmented chord sounds alien, but with the right application, it can make your music more interesting, right? So let me break down what I did. The song Holy, 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 the first line, holy, that's the 1, holy to the 6, holy, ho to the 5, holy then back to the 1, merciful, then to the 4, and then back to the 1. That's the first line, right? So in that first line, where do we have a minor chord? That's the 6. So we did 1, 1, 6. So what I simply did was that I used the augmented 7th chord as a passing to that 6 on the secondary dominant. So I did, are you seeing it? That is that 3 augmented 7th chord on my 3. See? So that's the first line. Then the second line, 5/7, 1, 5/7 to the 6. You've gotten a minor chord now. That's the 6. Let's continue. Then to the 2. Let me do that again. 5/7, 1, 5/7 to the 6, to the 5, then to the 2, another minor chord, 2. Then dominant, making that to a dominant chord, to the 5. So we have 2 minor chords in that line. So simply apply the augmented 7th as passings to those minor chords, right? So this is what I did. So 5/7, then I played that chord. Because I'm going to the 6, so I'm playing it on the 3. That's what I did. So now going to the 2, I'll apply that that augmented 7th chord, right? So since I'm going to the 2, where will I apply that augmented 7th chord? Applying it on the 6, right? See? So we have you see it? That's simply what I did. Then we go to the 3rd line, which is the same thing as the first line. Now, the 4th line is the most interesting part, right? So it starts with the 6. 6 to the 3, to the 4, to the 1, and then 4, 2, 5, and 1. Or I can just play 2, 5, and 1 whatsoever, right? So 2, 5, 1, or 4, 2, 5, yeah, whatsoever, right? But you notice that we have 3 minor chords in that line. So the first one is the 6, and then the 3, and then we have the 2. So we can apply the augmented 7th on the secondary dominants to those minor chords. So the first one, which is the 6, right? I played that augmented 7th on the 3, which took me to the 6. So let's go back to the 3rd line, right? So I use that as a setup that, taking me to that 6. So the next chord is going to the 3. So I applied that augmented 7th chord on that 7, right? So I did this. That's what I did. I'm going to that 3, so I did. So I continue. So instead of playing the 2, because the 2 is occupying 2 beats. 1, 2. Are you seeing it? So 1, 2. So I shared it. I used the first beat for that augmented 7th on the 6th, then which took me to that 2, and then 5, 1. So that's what I did. That's it. One more time. Thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you've not subscribed. Also like and share the video. And drop your comments in the comment section. I'd like to know what you think about the augmented 7th chord and its application as a secondary dominant. Till I come your way next time, this is Inspirational Eby, edifying the soul.